instantly lose everyone's respect, quietly, without even realizing why. It's not the loud mistakes that make people pull away. It's the small, subtle habits, the ones that signal more than they say. And once you understand them, you'll see how easily respect fades and how quickly it can return. It begins with something so common that most people don't even notice they do it. Cutting someone off mid-sentence, jumping in to finish their thought. On the surface, it feels harmless, just energy, enthusiasm. But underneath, it sends a quiet message. My words matter more than yours. Interrupting is a silent dominance cue, and the brain registers it as social disrespect. In studies on conversation flow, people rated interrupters as less trustworthy and more self-absorbed. The fix isn't to talk less, it's to listen longer. Wait half a breath, let them finish. That moment of restraint tells others something powerful. I value your voice. And in any social setting, listening is influence. But sometimes we don't interrupt, we just redirect. You share a story and somehow it circles back to them. You talk about a rough day and suddenly it becomes their tough week, their worst experience. Psychologists call this conversational narcissism. It's not cruelty, it's insecurity disguised as empathy. You're not connecting, you're competing for attention. If you want to reverse it, add one habit: curiosity. Ask one more question before you share your story. Because people don't remember those who talk the most, they remember those who made them feel most heard. Then there's the voice that drags a room down without even trying. Negativity, constant complaint, that low, invisible storm that follows someone everywhere they go. Emotional contagion studies show that negativity spreads faster than any virus. It drains focus, energy, and even memory in others. And soon, people start associating your presence with exhaustion. You don't have to fake positivity. You just need to speak toward a resolution. Vent to process, not to perform. Because every complaint without a solution teaches others to tune you out. And when your words lose gravity, your presence does too. The next habit hides behind good intentions, the need to impress. You drop achievements into stories, name-check connections, or humble brag about being so busy. You're trying to sound confident, but it lands as performance. Research shows that even authentic bragging feels warmer than forced modesty. At least honesty feels real. What people want isn't perfection, it's congruence. When your words match your energy, they trust you. When they don't, they feel the act before they hear it. You don't gain respect through flash or ego. You earn it by letting people discover your strengths on their own time. Then there's the quiet killer of credibility, inconsistency. Saying one thing, doing another, agreeing to plans you never keep, promising help, then vanishing. Behavioral inconsistency destroys trust faster than betrayal. People don't expect you to be flawless. They just want to know what to expect. Every time you flake, their confidence in you fractures, and once reliability goes, respect follows. Keep fewer promises, but keep all of them. Because integrity doesn't shout, it repeats itself. Some habits don't break trust, they just break the connection. Defensiveness is one of them. When every question feels like an attack, conversations turn into landmines. It's not intelligence people sense when you argue every point, it's fragility. You're not protecting truth. You're protecting ego. Studies show that calm receptivity, even under criticism, ranks as one of the most respected traits in social psychology. So pause before reacting. Ask yourself, am I listening to defend or to understand? That question alone can shift the energy of any room. Then there's the signal people read before you even speak: your timing. Being late seems small, but socially it says, my time matters more than yours. Lateness breaks rhythm. It tells people they can't rely on you to respect their boundaries. Over time, it's not about clocks, it's about character. The solution isn't just punctuality, it's preparation. Show up early, not for appearance, but to make others feel seen, because respect begins in small timing. And even when you arrive on time, are you really there? Distraction kills connection faster than distance. Looking at your phone mid-sentence, half listening while your thoughts race elsewhere. People feel that disconnection instantly. It tells them you're not important right now. Even micro-distractions, a glance, a buzz, can cut perceived empathy in half. So put the phone away, hold eye contact, let silence stay. Because real attention is one of the rarest currencies left. Some habits live deeper, under the skin. Holding grudges is one of them. You think you're protecting your peace, but what you're really protecting is pain. People sense that heaviness. They start filtering themselves around you, walking on eggshells through unspoken tension. Letting go isn't weakness, it's control. It means someone else's actions no longer dictate your mood, and that kind of emotional steadiness, it's magnetic. But perhaps the most draining habit of all is needing constant reassurance, asking if someone's mad, fishing for compliments. It's what psychologists call validation seeking, and while it comes from insecurity, it lands as pressure. Confidence isn't built through approval, it's built through self-trust. The less you chase validation, the more freely people offer it, because connection breathes in space, not in demand. In the end, respect isn't lost in explosions, it's lost in inches. A missed pause, a broken promise, a forced smile. Every habit we've covered shares one truth. People don't dislike you for being imperfect. They pull away when they can't feel safe around you. So, protect the small things, your timing, your tone, your presence, your promises, because likability isn't about charm. It's about emotional awareness. And once you understand that, people stop just tolerating you and start trusting you. Even silence earns respect when it comes from strength.
Have you ever watched someone sit quietly in a loud room, yet somehow they're the one who's truly awake? While everyone else reacts to the noise, they notice the patterns underneath it, the shifts in tone, the tension in someone's voice, the meaning behind what wasn't said. Most people move through the world on the surface, but deep thinkers don't live there. They operate on another level, one most people never even learn exists. And today, you'll see exactly how their mind works, the questions they ask that others overlook, the reflective reasoning that turns small moments into insight, and the mental habits you can borrow to sharpen your own thinking without slipping into overthinking. So let's unlock the hidden world inside people who are deep thinkers and understand why their inner landscape feels so rare. Deep thinkers don't start with answers, they start with questions. It begins with relentless curiosity, the trait most people skip. They don't accept surface explanations because they can feel there's always something beneath them. Research on high curiosity individuals shows they naturally push toward the root of things. That's why their insights feel deeper. They're built on causes, not assumptions. But curiosity alone isn't the engine. Reflection is. Deep thinkers pause. They slow the world down. They watch their emotions, question their interpretations, and examine their first reactions before acting on them. Studies on introspection show that this reflective processing gives them stability where others feel chaos. There's also intellectual humility, a rare power. Deep thinkers don't pretend to know everything. They revise their beliefs. They challenge themselves. They stay open to being wrong. Psychology research shows that people high in this trait are less biased and more logically grounded. And then there's their relationship with solitude. Not loneliness, solitude. A quiet environment gives them room to hear their own thoughts fully. But maybe the most overlooked trait is their comfort with ambiguity. Most people panic when answers aren't clear. Deep thinkers feel at home in uncertainty. They explore it, map it, and sit with it long enough to extract meaning. These traits create a mindset that's calm, observant, and unusually perceptive. But mindset is only the beginning. The real difference lies in how their mind actually works. Deep thinkers have a unique advantage. They don't just think, they notice themselves thinking. This is metacognition, the ability to observe your own thoughts as they form. It's like having a second mind, analyzing the first. Research shows people with strong metacognition detect weak arguments, challenge their assumptions, and correct their reasoning in real time. They also use integrative complexity, the ability to hold multiple perspectives at once without collapsing into confusion. They see contradictions not as problems, but as clues. They pull ideas from different angles, connect unexpected dots, and build nuanced conclusions, while others cling to black and white thinking. But another strength lies deeper: self-awareness. Deep thinkers track their emotional state the way others track the weather. They notice when they're stressed, reactive, influenced, or biased. And this self-monitoring gives them accuracy. Their thoughts aren't just deep, they're clean. The way they process information is equally distinct. They build mental maps, connecting experiences, memories, and patterns into broader frameworks. Studies on complex problem solving show that this allows them to plan further ahead and understand systems most people find overwhelming. And all this requires energy. Deep thinking isn't idle. It's deliberate, focused, and mentally expensive, which is why deep thinkers guard their attention fiercely, filtering out noise so their mind stays clear enough to think at full depth. But that clarity comes with a cost, and that leads to their hidden struggles. From the outside, deep thinkers look peaceful. Inside, it's demanding. The first struggle is mental fatigue. Deep cognitive processing drains energy fast. Research on cognitive load shows that even a single interruption can derail their thought process and force them to rebuild it from scratch. This is why deep thinkers protect silence, not as a preference, but as a necessity. Then there's the shadow of their own strength: overthinking. The same machinery that analyzes brilliantly can loop endlessly, reviewing possibilities, predicting angles, replaying events, trying to extract meaning long after the moment has passed. And socially, deep thinkers are often misunderstood. Their pauses get mistaken for awkwardness. Their need for depth gets mistaken for distance. Their quiet gets mistaken for disinterest. But in reality, they're processing more than they can express in real time. And the world we live in now makes it harder than ever. Notifications, noise, fragmentation, everything around them attacks the long stretches of focus their mind depends on. Studies show environments built on constant stimulation shrink the ability to think deeply altogether. And then there's the emotional way. Deep thinkers see multiple layers: the logic, the subtext, the emotional nuance, the consequences. They hold more at once, which is powerful, but also heavy. Yet these struggles don't weaken them. They explain why true depth is rare. What separates deep thinkers isn't that they reflect, it's that they use their reflection. One of their strongest habits is structured reflection, journaling, voice notes, or mentally reviewing key moments. Research on reflective practice shows this approach drastically improves learning and emotional clarity. Deep thinkers treat life as a data set. Every experience contains information. They also practice idea testing. They debate themselves, read opposing views, challenge their assumptions. Instead of defending their ego, they sharpen their reasoning. This flexibility, rooted in intellectual complexity, helps them evolve faster than people who cling to mixed beliefs. Another tool is environmental design. Deep thinkers curate their surroundings to support clarity: quiet over chaos, focus over noise, depth over speed. They know that a cluttered environment creates a cluttered mind. And then there's energy timing, one of the most overlooked secrets. Deep thinkers study their mental rhythms. When they're sharp, creative, or introspective, they align their hardest thinking with their highest mental peaks. It's not just, what do I think? It's, when does my mind think best? These habits create a mental ecosystem where insight doesn't just appear, it compounds. And the benefits of that depth ripple outward. Deep thinking reshapes a person from the inside out. The first benefit is better decision-making. Deep thinkers choose with context, long-term consequences, emotional factors, root causes, and logical pathways. Studies on reflective reasoning show that this leads to more stable and less reactive choices. Another benefit is emotional resilience. Deep thinkers don't run from their feelings. They study them. They break down emotional patterns, understand their triggers, and process experiences with clarity. That kind of inner work builds strength, not softness. Deep thinkers also form more meaningful relationships. Their curiosity and self-awareness makes them attentive listeners. They catch subtle cues such as tone, timing, and subtext. People feel truly seen by them because they are seen. Creativity is another product of depth. Deep thinkers don't collect ideas, they combine them. They bridge concepts others never notice, which is why so many creators, writers, inventors, and artists fall into the deep thinker category. But the greatest benefit is something quieter: purpose. Deep thinkers don't drift. They question, refine, align. mind and understand themselves through reflection. And that level of clarity gives their life a direction that feels intentional, not accidental, which leads to the final secret. You don't need to be born a deep thinker. Depth is a skill, and like any skill, it can be trained. Start with a daily reflection. A few minutes is enough. Ask yourself, what did I feel today? What did I learn? What did I assume without checking? This strengthens reflective reasoning and builds emotional clarity. Use metacognitive prompts during the day, such as, why do I believe this? What else could be true? How do I know I'm right? This activates the same self-monitoring deep thinkers use to avoid blind spots. Then, create a thinking ritual. Choose a time when your mind is naturally sharp, morning, late night, midday, and give yourself 10 minutes of uninterrupted space, long enough to think deeply, short enough to maintain daily. Reduce distraction, silence notifications, and clear visual clutter. Give your mind a clean runway. Research shows focus amplifies depth while fragmentation kills it. Engage with ideas that stretch you, such as long-form content, complex books, and challenging viewpoints. The more you learn, the more you develop intellectual humility, and the more your thinking expands. And finally, connect with other deep thinkers. A conversation with someone who thinks in layers will sharpen your own mind faster than thinking alone ever could. Depth attracts depth. These tools don't just make you think better, they make you see better. Most people stay on the surface. Deep thinkers don't. They dive, and the deeper they go, the more of themselves they discover. If you choose depth, even once, you won't see the world the same way again.
Become your true self. Let go of who you pretend to be. You ever stop mid-conversation and realize you're performing? You laugh at what doesn't amuse you. You agree just to keep the peace. You smile even when something in you feels off. And underneath that politeness, something whispers, this isn't me. Most people spend their lives chasing acceptance by pretending. Not because the world demands it, but because they've worn the mask so long, they've forgotten what's underneath. This video is about how to become your true self, to stop performing, stop hiding, and finally live as the person you were meant to be. We'll explore what authenticity truly means, why pretending feels safe but suffocating, and what psychology reveals about the deep freedom that comes when you finally let go of who you pretend to be. Most people think being yourself means doing whatever you want, but being authentic doesn't mean being messy. It means being true. Psychologists define the true self as the part of you that's grounded in values, not validation. It's the version that stays the same whether anyone's watching or not. Think of it like this. Your outer personality is a costume, habits, tone, reactions. But your true self is the body beneath. You can change outfits daily, but the form never changes. When your actions begin to match that inner shape, your principles, your real motives, you don't just look real, you feel whole. Abraham Maslow called this self-actualization, the moment when honesty replaces imitation. You stop copying, you stop performing, you start becoming, because you can't build peace on top of pretense. If everyone craves authenticity, why do we keep pretending? Because pretending works. At first, it keeps you safe, it earns approval, it buys belonging, until one day, the mask stops protecting you and starts suffocating you. Psychologists call this impression management, altering yourself to control how others see you. It isn't evil. Sometimes it's survival, but the price is heavy. Research shows that people who constantly act against their true beliefs suffer higher stress and lower well-being. Pretending burns energy, emotional, mental, spiritual. Eventually, you become exhausted from managing your image instead of living your truth. You know that feeling, smiling through conversations that drain you, saying yes, even though everything inside you says no. That's not confidence, that's a quiet collapse. The longer you pretend, the less you remember who you were before the performance began. And that's how authenticity dies. Not through deceit, but through slow disconnection. Authenticity isn't a personality trait, it's a psychological alignment. A 2020 study identified 4 pillars of authentic living. First is consistency, which happens when your words and actions match. Second is conformity, where you adapt without losing yourself. Next is connection, where you feel linked to your true emotions. And finally, continuity, which means you remain the same person over time. When these 4 sync up, your brain rewards you. fMRI studies show that living authentically activates areas tied to self-regulation and reward, meaning it literally feels better to be real. And people who live this way report higher life satisfaction, deeper relationships, and less anxiety. And here's the part people feel but can't explain. Once you align who you are inside with how you move through the world, people stop questioning you. They just trust you, because the energy of someone who's real doesn't shout, it just rings true. Before you can live honestly, you have to spot where you're faking it. And sometimes that performance is invisible, even to you. You tell people you're fine when you're falling apart. You laugh at jokes that sting. You keep relationships that drain you because rejection feels worse than loneliness. That's not being polite. That's emotional suppression, and it comes with a price. Studies show that repressing emotions raises stress, spikes your heart rate, and damages your ability to regulate feelings. When you fake it long enough, your body begins to carry the weight your words refuse to. Another warning sign, comparison. You measure your worth by others' lives, their success, their looks, their approval. That's not ambition, that's identity hunger. And the more you feed it, the hungrier you become. To become your true self, you have to stop chasing reflections and start building your own shape, because the real you isn't waiting for applause, just permission. Letting go of the mask isn't dramatic, it's gradual. A slow unlearning, a peeling away of false comfort until what's left finally feels like home again. Step 1 is awareness. Ask yourself, where do I feel fake? Write it down, don't censor. Awareness builds self-concept clarity, a proven predictor of emotional stability and confidence. Step 2 is values. Define what you'd stand for, even if nobody clapped. When your choices reflect your principles, authenticity becomes automatic. Step 3 is small alignments. You don't need a new life, just new honesty. Say no when you mean no. Tell the truth once a day. Decline what feels wrong in your gut. And finally, step 4 is boundaries. Authenticity needs walls. Protect what matters: your time, your energy, your calm. The moment you stop letting people overstep, you start teaching them how to meet the real you. Studies show that people who live authentically, even imperfectly, experience lower anxiety and higher resilience. Because the mask doesn't fall when you tear it off, it falls when you stop holding it up. When you finally start living authentically, the world doesn't instantly change. You do. Peace replaces pressure. You stop performing for every room. You start belonging in your own skin. Your relationships deepen because people can finally meet you, not your version of acceptable. Being genuine earns trust faster than charm ever will. And then comes purpose. You stop chasing meaning and start creating it. This is what psychologists call self-actualization, the stage where behavior and belief finally move in the same direction. Gallup's recent research found that employees who bring their authentic selves to work are more engaged, more innovative, and more fulfilled. Authenticity doesn't just feel good, it performs better. That's the paradox of truth. When you stop trying to be impressive, you become powerful. When you stop proving yourself, you find yourself. Because the truest confidence isn't loud, it's honest. You were never meant to live behind a filter. Every version you built to survive, the perfectionist, the people pleaser, the one who says, "I'm fine," was protection, not identity. But protection, when worn too long, becomes a cage. So, when you're ready, take off the mask. Let silence feel awkward. Let truth sound raw. Let the real you breathe. And if the world doesn't recognize you at first, good. It means you finally do.
Why envious people secretly struggle with insecurity. You're scrolling. A friend posts their new job, their new car, their perfect vacation. Your stomach tightens. The thought hits, why not me? And then the shift comes. You start whispering to yourself, they probably cheated, or I'll prove I'm better. That's the shadow of being envious. And here's the truth. Envy isn't about them. It's about the jealous insecurity you're carrying that you don't want to face. So in this video, we'll uncover the real engine of envy, while fragile self-worth makes you vulnerable, how insecurity hides inside your reactions, and what steps can turn envy from poison into power. At the core of every envious struggle lies one thing: fragile self-worth. If you know your value, someone else's win doesn't shake you. But when your identity rests on external comparisons, job titles, social media likes, or who's ahead of you, every success around you feels like proof you're falling behind. Psychologists call this contingent self-esteem. Research shows people whose self-esteem depends on outside validation experience sharper envy and higher stress. When praise comes, they rise. When recognition goes elsewhere, they collapse. Think about it. You see a peer get promoted. If you're secure, it's an inspiration. If you're insecure, it feels like humiliation. Same event, two realities. And envy doesn't stay hidden. It spills into behavior. Studies link envy to burnout and lost motivation. The weaker your self-worth, the stronger envy hijacks your performance. Envy isn't proof that others are better. It's proof you don't yet believe in your own worth. Where does this fragility begin? Often in attachment wounds. Patterns formed early that shape how you connect. People with anxious attachment are hyper alert to rejection. They see others' success as a threat. For example, the thought may arise that if they're thriving, I'll be left behind. Those with avoidant attachment hide envy with cold detachment, but the insecurity burns the same. This drives emotional reactivity. Instead of curiosity or reflection, you get sarcasm, withdrawal, or outbursts. One casual brag from a coworker can ruin your day, not because of them, but because of what it triggers in you. And external stress magnifies it. A 2023 study found that poor sleep makes envy spike, especially in insecurely attached people. When you're tired, your defenses drop, and envy takes over. So if envy feels overwhelming, it isn't random. It's insecurity in disguise. Most people won't admit they're envious. Instead, they wear masks. It slips out as jokes that cut deeper than they should, quick dismissal. For example, sure, but they had connections. Or quiet sabotage, withholding help, secretly hoping for failure. Psychologists divide envy into two forms, benign and malicious. Benign envy can push you forward. Malicious envy drags others down so you don't feel alone. And here's the paradox. Every time you undermine someone else, you reinforce your own weakness. Envy convinces you that pulling them down lifts you up. In reality, it traps you in comparison instead of growth. The harder you hide envy, the clearer it becomes that you're not angry at them. You're unsettled with yourself. Comparison has always existed, but today's world has turned it into a 24/7 comparison trap. On social media, you're not up against neighbors, you're up against millions of highlight reels, perfect careers, perfect bodies, perfect relationships. Psychologists call this upward social comparison. In moderation, it can motivate, but endless exposure leads to envy, shame, and depression. The danger isn't just the photos. It's your brain's interpretation. Each curated success looks like evidence of your own lack. That's why studies show heavy social media use fuels envy, especially for people who are already insecure. And the cycle feeds itself. The more insecure you feel, the more you scroll, hunting relief and finding only proof you don't measure up. The more you chase validation outward, the emptier you feel inward. But envy doesn't have to stay poisonous. It can be fuel if you face it direct. Step 1 is awareness. Don't suppress envy. Name it. Ask, what insecurity is this showing me? That flips envy into a mirror. Step 2 is reframing. Replace "they don't deserve it" with "what can I learn from how they did it?" Research shows reframed envy boosts motivation and resilience. Step 3 is rebuilding your self-worth. Anchor in mastery and values, not approval. Live by principles, not metrics. The stronger your inner core, the weaker your envy's grip. Step 4 is gratitude. Daily gratitude lowers envy and raises satisfaction. When you focus on what you have, you stop obsessing over what you lack. Envy stays poison when it hides. It becomes power when you confront it. So what happens when you free yourself from envy? First, emotional stability. No more spikes of rage or shame every time someone else wins. Second, deeper relationship. Friends and co-workers stop being rivals. You celebrate with them, building trust. Third, sharper focus. Instead of burning energy on comparison, you invest in your path. That's why people who overcome envy report higher creativity and productivity. And finally, natural respect. People sense the difference between someone ruled by envy and someone grounded in confidence. Real security attracts without trying. Life without envy isn't life without ambition. It's life without chains. Here's the truth. Envy was never about them. It was always about you. The moment you confront insecurity, envy has nothing left to feed on. And when that happens, you stop living envious and start living free. Self-transformation shows how to become your best version. Have you ever wondered why some people manage to change their entire lives while others stay stuck in the same pattern for years? If you've asked yourself what real self-transformation looks like, you are not alone. Every day, more people search for ways to change not just their routine, but their identity. And maybe you feel the pull too. You want to know how people go from who they are today to who they hope to become. You want to know what actually works, what science supports, and how long it takes. And you want to know how to start without feeling overwhelmed. This video will show you the core steps that real change is built on. You'll see why your story shapes your future, how small shifts turn into major growth, and why your mind often changes before your life does. And somewhere in this, you might find that that version of you you've been searching for has been waiting to be built, one choice at a time. The first step is understanding what transformation really is. Many people confuse upgrade with reinvention. A new job, a new look, a new routine, or a new relationship can feel like change, but true transformation runs deeper. It reaches the level of identity. It changes the way you think, act, respond, and choose. This is why psychologists talk about something called narrative identity. It's the inner story you tell about who you are, what matters to you, and where your life is heading. Your story may include some truths, but it can also carry old beliefs, fears, or limits that no longer fit your future. When you begin a real personal growth journey, you aren't just fixing pieces of your life. You are rewriting your story in a way that makes you the main character again. And once your story shifts, your mindset shifts with it. This is why some people feel a sudden sense of clarity after facing a hard truth. Their story changed, so their life direction changed too. But knowing this isn't enough. You need something practical. You need evidence of what works. That leads you to the next step. Habits. Small habits, to be exact. Most people aim for huge change fast. They overhaul their diet, join a gym, wake up early, start journaling, plan meditation sessions, and try to control every minute of their day. It looks impressive. It feels powerful, but it rarely lasts longer than a few weeks. Science points to something different. Change grows best when it starts small, even tiny. Something as simple as drinking water when you wake up, or taking a 2-minute walk after each meal can create a shift. These are seeds of change. Psychologists call some of these seeds keystone habits because they don't just add value, they unlock more value. A short morning stretch can improve focus. A 2-minute tidying session can lower stress. A short reading habit can raise motivation. A small change creates momentum, and momentum creates consistency. This matters because your brain is wired to protect your current identity. If you try to change everything too fast, your mind pushes back. But when you begin with micro habits, your brain accepts them without fear. Over time, these micro changes become proof. Proof that you follow through, proof that you can change, proof that you're becoming someone new. This is the point where most people run into their first roadblock. They start wondering, how long until this feels normal? How long until it sticks? For years, people believed it took 21 days to build a habit, but recent research gives a clearer number. A study with thousands of participants found habits take about 59 to 66 days to stick for most people. More complex habits may take 3 to 5 months. That means transformation requires patience. It's not slow, it's strategic. Now think about that for a moment. 60 days of effort can change the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you behave. That's not a long time when you compare it to how long you've lived in your current patterns. This is why the people who transform aren't the ones who push the hardest on day one. They're the ones who stay consistent even when the progress feels invisible. But habits alone don't build a new identity. The next shift happens in your mind. Real transformation asks you to challenge your old thoughts. If your mind keeps telling you that you're not good enough, not smart enough, or not ready, then your actions will mirror those thoughts. So psychologists use a method called cognitive restructuring. It's simple. You take a negative thought, question it, and replace it with a more accurate one. Not a fake positive line, a grounded truth. Something like, I've failed before, but I'm learning. Or, I'm nervous, but I can try. These small shifts change the way you feel about yourself. And when your feelings change, your choices change. Once you stop fighting your own thoughts, you free up energy to build the habits that shape the new you. And soon you'll feel something powerful, momentum. But momentum doesn't last without meaning. This is where the emotional center of transformation appears. A transformation built only on goals will fall apart when you lose motivation. But a transformation built on values lasts through stress, doubt, and fear. So take time to ask yourself, what matters to me? What kind of person do I want to be? What behaviors match that kind of person? When your values guide your choices, change feels rewarding instead of forced. This is where journaling becomes useful, not the long poetic kind. Short, clear entries. One line about what you did well today. One line about what you learned. One line about the person you are becoming. It creates a trail of evidence that you are changing. And when you look back, you'll see growth that you didn't notice while living it. But even with values, you will face resistance. Transformation impacts your routines, relationships, beliefs, and comfort zones. Stress will hit you. Doubt will hit you. You might fall into old patterns again. That doesn't mean you failed. It's part of the process. The people who stay steady use a simple tool called implementation intentions. It's a plan built with if-then actions. If I feel tired, then I take a 5-minute break. If I feel stressed, then I take 10 deep breaths. If I skip a habit, then I restart it at the next possible moment. It shuts down emotional chaos and replaces it with clarity. This also strengthens emotional intelligence. You learn to understand your feelings without running from them. You learn to respond, not react. That is why emotional intelligence is one of the strongest predictors of long-term growth. It stabilizes your mind during change. It keeps you moving when other people quit. And now you reach the turning point most people never talk about. After months of micro habits, mindset shifts, and steady values, something subtle happens. The new you stops feeling new. You stop trying to change your life. and you start living the change. Your actions begin to match your identity. Your confidence grows. You trust yourself more. You notice how different your reactions are. You notice how you handle stress with more clarity and calm. Your life may look similar on the outside, but on the inside, you feel stronger, wiser, and more grounded. This is where the deeper layers of inner development show up, not in dramatic wins, not in perfect habits, but in the quiet moments, when you choose the better version of yourself without even thinking about it. That is transformation. Not a moment, a process, a steady rise. And when you look back, you might realize something unexpected. The process changed you more than the results ever could. You'll see how far you've come and how much more you can create. You'll see the old version of you not as a failure, but as a starting point. And you'll see the future version of you not as a dream, but as a direction. Because once you start building your best self, you never stop. And that brings you to the final question, the one this whole journey points toward. You spent years becoming who others expected you to be. Now ask yourself, who will you become if you choose to build a life that reflects who you truly want to be? How foolish people think from a Stoic perspective. Have you ever watched someone make the same dumb choice again and asked yourself, why don't they just see it? Stoic teachers had a blunt answer. The problem wasn't luck. It wasn't fate. It was the mind. When the Stoics talk about foolish people, they mean people whose minds are undisciplined, minds run by opinion, impulse, and pride, rather than by reason. That's the whole show. What we'll do is look inside that mental pattern, how impulses, ego, and untested beliefs trap people into repeated mistakes, and how Stoic practice points to a different path. So, how do impulses hijack judgment? Why is pride often the blindest thing of all? And what simple Stoic moves break the loop? Let's find out. The Stoics didn't call someone a fool because they failed a test. They called them a fool when the person lost command of their mind, when feelings, opinions, or cravings decided for them. That's different from stupid. It's a diagnosis, a mind that acts before it thinks. Epictetus, writing as someone who taught that control of impressions is everything, frames this plainly. We are hurt not by events, but by how our mind receives them. And a mind that accepts every impression without examination is, for the Stoics, a fool. Seneca and Marcus say the same thing with different metaphors. The fool is a slave to passions. The wise person keeps the mind free. The idea sits at the center of Stoic ethics. Wisdom is self-mastery, and foolishness is the absence of it. If foolishness starts with a mind that doesn't check itself, the next question is obvious. What hijacks the mind in the first place? The Stoics point to one loud culprit, ego. When people cling to status, pride, or being right, they stop looking for truth. The Stoics call this the surest road to error. When image matters more than reason, judgment bends to keep the image intact. Marcus Aurelius warns about self-importance that narrows vision. Epictetus rails against people who refuse correction because admitting fault would bruise pride. In Stoic terms, ego is not mere vanity. It becomes a cognitive block that seals people into their existing mistakes. Modern psychology gives us names for the same pattern: motivated reasoning and confirmation bias. Explain how people favor information that supports what they already believe or want to be true. When ego is high, these biases skyrocket. People will interpret evidence to protect status, not to find the truth. That's how smart people keep making dumb moves. So, ego locks the door, emotions pick the lock. Let's look at how feeling before thinking leads to error. The Stoics taught that passions, anger, fear, greedy desire, are distortions of judgment. They called violent emotions madness because it short-circuits reason. Their point? Emotions don't simply color our thinking. When unchecked, they become the engine that drives bad choices. Today's science backs this up. Research on emotion and decision-making shows that feelings systematically change what we notice and what we value, often in predictable, error-prone ways. Anger makes people more punitive. Fear narrows options. Desire blinds people to risk. In short, when emotion leads, judgment follows blindly. The Stoic remedy is direct. Practice catching impressions before reacting. Pause. Test the belief. Ask, is this impression true or useful? That pause interrupts the emotional cascade and opens space for reason. That's why Stoic exercises aim not to kill feeling, but to stop feeling from being the boss. If ego and emotion lock people into bad thinking, the final piece is what keeps them there, clinging to bad beliefs. The Stoics were blunt about this. People don't stay foolish because they lack facts. They stay foolish because they cling to the beliefs that built their identity, even when those beliefs are ruining their life. Seneca warned, that nothing traps the mind faster than opinions taken as truth without testing. The moment a belief becomes part of someone's ego, correction feels like an attack. And once that happens, a person stops updating their view of the world. You've seen this before. Someone keeps trusting the wrong person. Someone refuses to change a failing habit. Someone defends a bad decision long after they know it's sinking them. This isn't lack of intelligence. It's a refusal to reevaluate the idea that supports their pride. Modern research calls this belief perseverance, and it shows up even when the evidence against a belief is overwhelming. People will keep the belief because letting it go would mean facing the truth about themselves, that they were wrong, careless, or naive. The Stoics predicted this 2,000 years ago. Their fix was simple, but demanding. Judge ideas by testing them, not by protecting them. Ask, does this belief make me stronger or weaker? Does it help me act with reason or with impulse? If the answer is no, the Stoic path is to drop it immediately. But foolish thinking isn't only about bad beliefs. There's a deeper force the Stoics warned about, something that makes the mind chase distraction instead of clarity. Stoics argued that foolish people waste their strength on things that don't matter. They get pulled into drama, status games, gossip, and quick emotional reactions. Epictetus said it clearly. People lose themselves when they chase anything outside their control. This type of thinking survives today in another form, what psychology calls cognitive misdirection. When someone focuses on noise, their brain loses capacity for meaningful reasoning. Attention becomes fragmented. Their sense of priority collapses. They react fast, but not well. This is why Stoic teachers drew a hard line between what matters and what doesn't. A mind without that filter is dragged by every small event, a comment, a slight, a rumor, a moment of discomfort. The foolish person treats all of these as urgent. The Stoic treats them as irrelevant. The Stoics train their mind through exercises meant to build strength against distraction, stepping back from an emotional surge, judging the event by reason instead of reaction, and choosing what deserves attention. A foolish mind looks outward. A disciplined mind looks inward. But there's one final layer to foolish thinking, the part that makes bad choices feel rational to the person making them. One of the strangest truths the Stoics taught is this: foolish people think they're wiser than they are, and that false confidence makes them fall harder. Marcus Aurelius warned against assuming knowledge without examination. Epictetus said the most dangerous person is not the one who knows nothing, but the one who thinks they already understand everything. To the Stoics, this was the core of folly, a mind closed to learning. Today it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, the bias where people with low skill or insight overestimate their understanding. They lack the awareness to identify what they are missing. Their confidence rises, while their accuracy drops. The Stoics saw this same phenomenon in people who act without reflection. They assume they are right because the feeling of certainty is strong, but feeling certain and being correct are not the same thing. The illusion of control makes foolish people give reckless advice, dismiss warnings, and repeat the exact mistake they swore they'd avoid. They believe effort alone makes them wise. The Stoics say effort means nothing without examination. Wisdom starts with admitting how little you know. Foolishness starts with pretending you already know enough. And that brings us to the closing idea, the part the Stoics never softened, the truth they believed everyone must face alone. You can live driven by impulse, pride, and noise, believing certainty makes you safe. Or you can do what the Stoics demanded. Question everything you cling to, strip your mind clean, and rebuild it on reason. Because the world doesn't punish foolish people because they are wrong. It punishes them because they never stop to see it.
Have you ever met someone who stays quiet in a room, yet somehow sees more than everyone else combined? That quiet edge often belongs to an intuitive introvert, a person whose mind works in ways most people never notice. They move through the world with a kind of silent depth, spotting patterns before they form and reading people before they speak. But what actually gives them that unusual perception? How does their inner world shape what they notice? And why do their insights appear so sudden, even when they come from hours of hidden thinking? Those questions drive the journey we are about to take. And once you see how an introspective thinker really processes life, you may never look at quiet people the same way again. Because inside that calm surface is a mind working at full power. The way an intuitive introvert takes in information starts with something most people never consider: the depth of their sensory processing. Their brain does not move fast or loud, it moves deep. Instead of skimming the surface of an experience, Their mind slows down and pulls details inward. A change in someone's tone, a shift in the room's energy, a pattern forming in a conversation. They don't hunt for these signs, they absorb them. Research on sensory processing sensitivity shows that some people's nervous systems take in far more data per moment than the average person. Their brain filters less out. That means they don't just notice what's happening, they notice what's underneath what's happening. This sensitivity also understands why they protect their energy so carefully. Loud places, fast talkers, flashing environments, these things hit them harder, faster, and deeper. But the moment the world gets quiet, their mind activates, the noise drops away, and the patterns rise to the surface. This isn't a weakness, it's power. It gives them access to layers of reality most people walk right past, and that deep perception becomes something even sharper when emotions enter the picture. This is where their quiet turns into something almost uncanny. Watch an intuitive introvert at a party. They aren't the first to speak. They're the first to see. A twitch in someone's eyebrow, a smile that slips for half a second, the weight behind a word. These tiny cues carry meaning, and a deep observer catches them long before anyone else does. Their sensitivity doesn't only apply to lights, sounds, or environments. It applies to people. Studies on perceptual sensitivity show that some individuals are biologically wired to notice emotional microsignals that others filter out. For an intuitive introvert, this means they don't just read the room, they read the pulse of it. This is why people often feel understood around them without knowing why. The intuitive introvert can sense when someone is off, even if their face looks calm. They hear the strain under a "I'm fine." They catch the moment a person tries to hide their disappointment or protect their pride. And because they process these signals internally, silently, they don't need someone to explain their feelings. They already saw it happen. But here's the twist. They don't just gather these signals, they turn them into meaning. And that takes us into one of their most powerful traits. If you could step into the mind of an intuitive introvert, you wouldn't see a quiet place. You'd see a world of motion, images, symbols, theories, flashes of connection, all happening behind a calm expression. Their thinking isn't linear, it's layered. A small detail sparks a larger idea. One memory links to an observation. An emotion triggers a concept. And before they say a word, a full picture forms inside them. This is pattern-driven intuition. This is what turns a simple moment into insight. Other people gather data piece by piece. The intuitive introvert gathers meaning as a whole. Their mind works like a lens, pulling separate threads together until the message becomes clear. It's why they understand people's intentions before the person explains them. It's why they can predict how a situation might unfold after watching only the first few steps. Their symbolic thinking also gives them unusual creativity. They don't just imagine ideas, they feel them forming. They sense the direction before the path exists. It's like their mind is always one step ahead, building connections that seem to appear out of nowhere, but actually come from deep internal processing. This internal world is not loud, chaotic, or scattered. It's focused, rich, and alive. And the more you understand how they think, the more obvious one truth becomes. Their insight isn't an accident. It's built into the way they see everything. Most people think creativity is about brainstorming hard or pushing through a block. But for an intuitive introvert, ideas don't show up on command. They arrive in bursts. A thought that hits out of nowhere. A solution that appears in the middle of a quiet moment. A connection that pulls itself together while they're doing something simple, like walking or washing dishes. This is not randomness. It's the incubation effect at work. Their brain keeps processing even when they've stepped away from the problem. While someone else may strain to think, the intuitive introvert lets the idea rest, and their mind reorganizes the pieces on its own. And when the clutter clears, a new insight rises. That's why they protect their alone time so fiercely. Solitude isn't boredom for them, it's fuel. It gives their mind the space it needs to unlock what's been building beneath the surface. But here's another reason these bursts feel so strong. Their symbolic thinking doesn't just create ideas, it pushes them forward, into the future, into possibilities others haven't considered yet. This is the turning point, because once the insight lands, their mind does something even more interesting. When an intuitive introvert walks into a room, they don't react to what's happening. They react to what's about to happen. Their brain starts building quiet predictions, internal simulations, based on every pattern they picked up earlier. A slight change in someone's tone, a small shift in body language, a tension that flickers for a moment. Their mind takes these pieces and runs them through invisible mental models. It can make them slower to speak, but faster to understand. They pause, not because they have nothing to say, but because they are choosing the right thing to say. They're tracking the moment and the meaning at the same time. To others, this looks like caution. Inside, it's a calculation, and that creates a strange effect. Their accuracy is impressive, but their silence can be mistaken for distance, which leads to the final thing people get wrong about them. Silence makes people nervous. When someone talks less, the world tends to fill the gaps with assumptions. Cold, shy, detached. People throw these labels at intuitive introverts without realizing how wrong they are. Their quiet isn't emptiness. Their quiet is processing. They are reading, analyzing, connecting, and decoding. Their mind is working through layers at a speed that doesn't show on their face. But because their insight builds inwardly, people who rely on louder, faster communication miss what's happening. They also hide their depth on purpose. Not out of fear, but because exposing it to the wrong person feels wrong. Their sensitivity pulls them toward real connection, not noise. And when they finally speak, they say something that hits harder than anything that came before. This mismatch between how they operate and how others expect them to operate creates the illusion that they're hard to know. But the truth is simple. They're not distant, they're focused. And once you understand that, you start to see something most people overlook. Their quiet is not a gap, it's a doorway. You can spend years talking in circles, guessing, arguing, explaining, or you can start seeing the world from their perspective, through nuance, through clues, through the quiet spaces most people overlook. Because the intuitive introvert doesn't just look at life, they understand it. And once you notice how they see the world, it's impossible to unsee it.
You've felt it before, that strange moment when you say yes to something you didn't want, and only later realize you never really chose at all. That's not confusion. That's manipulation tactics at work. The quiet psychological moves that shape your thoughts, twist your emotions, and steer your choices without you noticing. They can come from anywhere, a partner, a boss, even someone who swears they love you. And the most terrifying part, they look completely normal. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain on 10 hidden ways you're being controlled. How manipulators bend reality, build dependency, and turn your emotions into their favorite tools. So let's start with one that makes you question the ground beneath your own mind. Tactic number 1, gaslighting and reality warping. This one doesn't just change what you think, it rewrites what you remember. Gaslighting is psychological warfare disguised as concern. They'll deny your memories, twist the facts, and accuse you of being too sensitive. At first you fight back, then you start doubting yourself, and soon you stop trusting your own perception. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance, that mental discomfort when reality clashes with someone else's version of it. To ease the tension, your brain starts accepting their story instead. And once that happens, they don't need to argue anymore, because now you argue with yourself. Think of it like psychological malware. Once installed, it rewrites everything you believe about yourself, quietly, completely, and without permission. Tactic number 2, love bombing and excessive charm. At first, it feels like a dream. They text all day, compliment every detail, tell you you're the only one who understands them. But behind the affection is an agenda. Love bombing is emotional conditioning. They flood you with warmth until your brain ties their attention to your worth. Then they pull back, and you chase that high like withdrawal. Studies show this tactic hijacks the same reward pathways as addiction, releasing dopamine and oxytocin, binding trust to the manipulator's approval. When they vanish, you crave their return. That's not love, that's leverage. When someone gives too much, too fast, it's rarely about connection, it's about control. Tactic number 3, silent treatment and emotional withdrawal. Silence can be louder than shouting. The silent treatment works because your mind fills the quiet with panic. No messages, no calls, no glance, only silence. You start obsessing. What did I do wrong? Desperate to fix the disconnect. Meanwhile, they've trained you to associate peace with obedience. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. Random bursts of affection, followed by long stretches of coldness. The same pattern that keeps gamblers addicted. You're not fixing the problem, you're feeding the system. When silence is used as punishment, it's not a resolution, it's control disguised as calm. Tactic number 4, guilt tripping and obligation induction. They don't have to yell to control you, they just have to make you feel guilty. After everything I've done for you, you're really going to act like that? Each phrase is designed to twist empathy into obedience. Therapists call it emotional extortion, guilt as currency. They hand you invisible debt until saying no feels cruel. And every time you whisper, I owe them, the leash tightens. Manipulators don't want fairness. They want permission to keep taking. Tactic number 5, triangulation and divide and conquer. Just when you start seeing the pattern, they bring someone else in. Now it's not just you and them, it's you versus the story they've told someone else. They'll say, she agrees with me, or everyone thinks you're overreacting. Suddenly, you're defending yourself to people who were never there. That's triangulation, a control move designed to divide and destabilize. By pitting people against each other, manipulators ensure no one ever unites against them. It's not chaos by accident, it's coordination. And once you start defending yourself to ghosts, they've already won. Tactic number 6, information overload and intellectual bullying. Not every manipulator is emotional. Some are technical. They bury you in data, jargon, and endless explanations until you can't keep up. It's not about being right, it's about wearing you down. This is cognitive overload, a mental flood that shuts off critical thinking. When you're overwhelmed, you'll agree just to escape. Research shows people overloaded with complex information are far more likely to defer to whoever sounds confident, even when that person is wrong. So when someone keeps explaining long after you understand, they're not clarifying, they're controlling. Tactic number 7, coercion and threats. Overt or subtle. Some control doesn't hide behind kindness, it hides behind fear. Coercion can sound like, you'll regret this, or as soft as, you know what will happen if you don't. Different tone, same message. You're not free to choose. Subtle threats create anticipatory anxiety. You start avoiding conflict before it even happens, and soon they won't have to punish you anymore. You punish yourself. The most dangerous cage isn't the one locked from the outside, it's the one you build inside your own mind. Tactic number 8, dependency creation and isolation. Control thrives in silence. Over time, manipulators chip away at your connections. One friend here, one habit there, until you only have them. They'll say, your friends don't get you, or I'm the only one who understands. At first, it feels protective. Eventually, it becomes a prison. Psychologists describe it as emotional dependency conditioning, the systematic breakdown of outside perspective. When you lose your support network, their version of reality becomes yours. You stop seeking advice, you stop trusting your instincts, and finally you stop recognizing yourself. When your world shrinks to one voice, that's not connection, that's captivity. Tactic number 9, weaponizing your words and passive consent. Manipulators remember everything you say, not to understand you, but to use it later. Every confession becomes ammunition. Every silence becomes agreement. Psychologists call this passive consent. the manipulator's favorite yes. If you don't set a boundary, they'll invent one for you. They'll twist your words into permission and your politeness into compliance. And the longer you stay quiet, the louder their version of your story becomes. If you don't define your truth, someone else will. Tactic number 10, changing the rules and Darvo. When they're cornered, they change the game. Suddenly, you're not the victim, you're the villain. This behavior follows a pattern known as Darvo: deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. They'll deny what happened, attack your credibility, and cry betrayal until you're the one apologizing. It's chaos with a purpose, a psychological smokescreen designed to erase accountability and rewrite guilt. And if you start explaining yourself, they've already won the rewrite. Darvo isn't defense, it's deceit disguised as emotion. You've just seen the blueprint: 10 quiet ways control hides in plain sight. These manipulation tactics don't steal your freedom all at once. They take it piece by piece. A doubt here, a silence there, a small guilt you can't quite name. But once you see the pattern, it can't control you anymore, because manipulation doesn't take power. It convinces you to hand it over. And the moment you stop giving it, every manipulator loses their favorite weapon: your unawareness.
10 signs of self-centered people you didn't know. You've probably crossed paths with someone who seemed perfectly kind at first glance. Grounded, charming, even thoughtful. But slowly you start to feel drained around them, like every interaction is pulled toward their center of gravity. What you think, what you feel, what you need, it all gets pushed to the edges. That's the quiet design of truly self-centered people. They don't reveal themselves through obvious arrogance. Their patterns hide behind politeness, compliments, and casual conversation, so well disguised that you don't recognize the truth until the emotional cost shows up. Today, we're going deeper into the 10 signs of self-centered people you didn't know. The subtle markers psychology links to egocentric behavior, self-absorption, and attention-seeking traits that many people overlook until it's too late. And the first sign is the one most people misread as confidence, when it's really the opposite. 1. The fragile ego behind their confidence. Self-centered people often carry themselves as if they're effortlessly above the crowd, sure of their opinions, certain of their abilities, unshakably secure. But that sense of superiority isn't rooted in strength. It's balancing something delicate. You can see it in the way their demeanor shifts the moment attention drifts away from them. A room that isn't focused on them suddenly feels hostile. A neutral expression becomes rejection. A small accomplishment by someone else registers as a personal threat. Psychologists describe this tension as the hallmark of a fragile ego, a self-image polished on the outside, but unstable underneath. They aren't confident, they're performing with confidence. And the pressure of holding that performance together drives almost everything that follows. Because when someone's identity depends on how they're perceived, they start searching for a very specific kind of fuel. 2. Their need for admiration becomes emotional oxygen. With a self-centered person, attention isn't enjoyable, it's necessary. They may not check in on you, think about you, or consider your needs for long stretches of time. But the moment they want a connection, they expect it instantly and completely. Their sense of worth rises and falls based on external validation. A compliment steadies them. A moment of disinterest destabilizes them. And any shift in the emotional environment feels like a shift in their personal value. This hunger doesn't show up as loud demand. It seeps into conversations. They guide the discussion back to their accomplishments, their stresses, and their victories. Not to share, but to feel anchored. Over time, this dependency narrows their emotional awareness. They're not asking how you feel because they're monitoring something else, whether they're being affirmed. And that's when the next hidden pattern appears. 3. Their empathy only exists when it benefits them. Most people recognize emotional signals. A sad tone, a worried expression, a tired posture. But self-centered individuals filter everything through a simple, unspoken equation. Does this affect me? If your moods shift, they evaluate its impact on their comfort. If you're overwhelmed, they wonder whether your attention will drift. If you're upset, they focus on what they might lose, not what you feel. This isn't always cruelty. Sometimes it's an emotional limitation. They understand emotions logically, but struggle to connect with them intuitively. The split between cognitive empathy and true emotional empathy. That's why your vulnerable moments can feel strangely hollow around them. You open up, and instead of support, you get redirection. Your experience reframed into theirs. Not because your story isn't important, because they're unable to inhabit it. And once they begin seeing relationships through this self-focused lens, something deeper forms beneath the surface. 4. They expect the world to bend toward them. Entitlement in self-centered individuals rarely announces itself. It appears quietly, as assumptions. Assumptions that they deserve more attention, more tolerance, more exceptions, more emotional labor, more everything. They move through interactions as if people should adjust their needs without question, even though they rarely adjust to anyone else's. If someone else receives praise, they interpret it as a loss. If someone else gets help, they feel overlooked. If someone else has a moment in the spotlight, they feel displaced. It's not open competition yet. It's the unease of believing the universe is supposed to align around them and noticing when it doesn't. That tension grows until the next shift becomes inevitable. 5. Your success feels like a shadow over their identity. Someone else's achievement should be inspiring, or at least neutral. But for self-centered people, it triggers something uncomfortable. Your progress quietly threatens the hierarchy they have built in their mind. They may congratulate you, but there's a stiffness underneath, a pause that lingers too long, a tone that dips just slightly, a sense that your moment dampens theirs. And because their internal value depends so heavily on standing out, even the smallest accomplishment you make can feel like displacement. It doesn't matter whether the success is personal, professional, or emotional. If it elevates you, they feel reduced. This fragile balance pushes them toward a different strategy, one that looks like support, but functions as control. 6. Their guidance keeps you dependent. Self-centered people often step into the role of helper, advisor, or guide, but their support comes with invisible strings. Their suggestions are rarely about empowering you. They are crafted to define the terms of your progress. They enjoy being the authority you lean on, the person whose approval seems necessary, the one whose insight feels indispensable. Following their advice strengthens the illusion of their importance. Rejecting it feels to them like disrespect. This is the psychology behind manipulative help. Support that keeps the other person small enough to remain grateful. And when they sense they're losing that influence, their entire communication style shifts. 7. They hear the words, but not the meaning. Self-centered individuals engage in conversations with an agenda. They listen just long enough to find an entry point to steer things back toward themselves. They remember the details that reinforce their worldview and forget the ones that ask them to step outside it. This creates the uncanny sensation of talking to someone who's physically present but emotionally absent. You can't explain, clarify, or confide, but the moment you stop speaking, your words dissolve. This is the core of conversational narcissism, the erosion of connection disguised as engagement. And without genuine listening, even the gentlest feedback becomes unbearable. 8. Every form of criticism feels like an attack. Criticism, even soft, careful, constructive criticism, destabilizes them, not because of the content, but because of what it represents, a crack in the image they work so hard to maintain. They might deflect, shut down, become irritated, or twist the meaning of what was said. They'll protect their identity before they consider your intention. A request becomes an accusation. A suggestion becomes an insult. A misunderstanding becomes a threat. And when someone is that sensitive to being corrected, their perception of others becomes distorted. 9. They misinterpret neutral moments as personal judgments. A self-centered person rarely sees social interactions as they are. Every expression, pause, or shift becomes a reflection of themselves. If someone is quiet, they assume disapproval. If someone is distracted, they assume rejection. If someone isn't impressed, they assume jealousy. Psychologists connect this to distortions like the spotlight effect, the belief that everyone is constantly evaluating them. This creates misunderstandings that spiral into unnecessary conflict, drama, or withdrawal. And when the real world feels confusing or uncontrollable, they retreat to the one place where they can craft an identity without friction. 10. Social media becomes their stage, not their space. Online, self-centered people find the validation consistency they crave. They present curated images, polished narratives, and strategically timed posts that reinforce the identity they want others to see. If something doesn't perform well, it disappears. If attention rises, they amplify it. If admiration slows, they escalate their presence. This is the pulse of the validation loop, the cycle where self-worth becomes tied to metrics instead of meaning. They're not sharing their life. They're broadcasting a version of themselves that feels safer than reality. And everyone watching becomes part of an audience they're performing for. Self-centered people don't just consume your time. They consume your emotional clarity, your space to breathe, your ability to feel seen. Piece by piece, they draw you into their orbit until you forget that relationships are meant to be mutual. But once you understand the patterns, once you see how their world is shaped, you stop absorbing their behavior as a reflection of your worth. You reclaim the space they've taken. You protect the energy they drain. And most importantly, you remember that connection should feel shared, not one-sided.
Have you ever wondered why some people feel more alive the moment they close their own front door? Not bored, not lonely, just grounded. Like the world finally makes sense again. For people who love staying at home, that moment isn't rare. It's their everyday reality. While others chase noise, crowds, and plans, they find their spark in stillness, comfort, and the quiet rhythm of their own space. So what makes staying at home feel so good for them? Why do some people recharge in solitude while others drain in it? And how does choosing a home sanctuary actually lead to a happier, clearer, more intentional life than constantly going out? Let's pull back the curtain on a world most people never slow down long enough to understand. Some people step into a crowded place and feel their energy drain like a battery on red. Others walk into the living room and feel it rise. That's because many home-first people have a brain that works better in stable, low-stimulation environments. Psychologists studying sensory processing found that people with more sensitive nervous systems absorb details more intensely, such as lights, sounds, movement, and even social cues. For them, the outside world isn't exciting. It's loud, it's busy, it's too much. At home, the noise drops, their thoughts sharpen, their breathing slows, the stress chemicals fade. The brain switches from overload to control. This isn't shyness or laziness. This is biology. It's the same reason some animals survive better in calm habitats, while others chase chaos. People with this wiring operate their best when the environment supports their nervous system instead of attacking it. And once you understand that, staying home stops looking like hiding and starts looking like alignment. But there's another layer people miss. It's not just about shutting the world out. It's about what staying in lets them access. There's a moment many homebodies know well. The door closes, the world quiets, and the mind finally clicks into place. Not loneliness, clarity. Psychologists call this restorative solitude. It's the kind of alone time that resets the emotional system, boosts creativity, and strengthens decision-making. People who love staying home experience a deeper version of it because they don't treat solitude as punishment. They treat it as fuel. When they're alone, the brain isn't scanning for social cues or managing small talk. It's free. And something else happens. Inner voices get louder than outer opinions. That's why people who enjoy staying at home often know themselves better. They hear their real thoughts without noise drowning them out. They sense what they want, what they don't, and who they are when no one's watching. Research shows that this kind of attentive solitude increases emotional regulation, meaning homebodies recover from stress faster and make calmer choices in conflicts. It's not that they're avoiding life. It's that they're strengthening the part of themselves that shows up when life hits them back. Still, it's not just the emotional benefits that make this lifestyle powerful. There's a practical side people overlook, and it changes everything. The outside world is anything but certain. Crowds, traffic, noise, expectations, costs. But the moment someone steps into their own cozy living space, everything becomes predictable. They control the temperature, the lighting, the sounds, and the pace. That control builds something many people struggle to maintain: mental efficiency. When the environment is predictable, the brain wastes less energy reacting, which means more energy for focus, creativity, and strategy. And then there's the financial part. People who enjoy their domestic lifestyle naturally avoid the constant spending on drinks, rides, food, events, and clothes that come with going out. Their fun doesn't require an entry fee. Their peace isn't tied to a place that charges by the hour. They also conserve emotional energy. No forced conversations, no awkward social loops, no pretending. That saved energy becomes fuel for their own interests, projects, hobbies, and personal growth. Where others burn out from constant stimulation, home-first people build stability. Where others chase novelty for a dopamine spike, they create deep, lasting enjoyment. And that's why the stay-at-home personality isn't a limitation. It's a strategic lifestyle, one built on peace, intention, and self-direction. But what they do with that peace, that's where the story gets even more interesting. Certain people need constant noise just to feel alive. Homebodies don't. They come alive when the world gets quiet enough for their mind to start working at full depth. When someone spends more time in their own sanctuary, something rare happens. Their interests stop being shallow hobbies and start becoming long-form passions. There's no rush, no interruption, no pressure to perform. They can dive into coding for 3 hours straight, or lose themselves in a book, or even build a craft skill. Psychologists call this deep focus immersion, the state where attention narrows and creativity expands. It shows up more in calm, controlled environments than in public ones, where constant interruptions break concentration before it even forms. People who love staying at home master this state with ease, not because they're special, but because their environment actually supports it. This is why so many writers, artists, engineers, analysts, and hobby-driven thinkers thrive in solitude. Home becomes a workshop for the mind, a place where scattered thoughts finally land and stay still long enough to grow. And even if the world doesn't see the progress, homebodies feel it every single day. But their life isn't just built on inner depth. Their way of connecting with others is just as unique and just as misunderstood. The stereotype says staying home means being antisocial. But in reality, home-focused people can have stronger relationships than anyone else. Why? Because they don't spread their time thin. They don't bounce from circle to circle trying to fit in. They choose carefully, intentionally, and they show up fully for the people they trust. There's no performance, no mask, and no social exhaustion that forces them to withdraw. When they talk, it's meaningful. When they listen, it's attentive. When they care, it's real, not something done out of obligation. Their friendships often form around shared routines, things like home dinners, long conversations, movie nights, game nights, and creative sessions. These aren't backup plans. They're the kind of slow, comfortable interactions that build emotional closeness faster than any loud night out. And here's the part most people overlook. Because homebodies pace their social energy, they avoid burnout. Their connections last longer. They don't disappear, ghost, or run out of steam. They build relationships the same way they build their inner world, steadily, deeply, and with their full heart present. But the most surprising part of this lifestyle isn't the peace, or the focus, or even the relationships. It's the sense of power it gives them. Choosing to stay at home in a world that pressures you to go out isn't a weakness. It's autonomy. Most people don't realize how much of their life is shaped by outside noise, trends, comparison, fear of missing out, and social pressure. But people who love their cozy living rhythm move differently. They choose based on internal signals, not external ones. At home, they build routines that protect their mental health. They create order when the world feels chaotic. They learn to enjoy their own company instead of fearing silence. And behind that, something powerful forms. A solid identity. One that doesn't bend every time the world changes direction. They aren't running from discomfort. They're choosing clarity and control. They're choosing a life that actually fits their nervous system, their energy, and their sense of meaning. This is why homebodies often seem calm under stress. Their inner life is anchored, and that strength doesn't look loud. It looks steady. And that's the part the world almost always misjudges. People chase the world because they're scared of sitting with themselves. Homebodies aren't. They face the quiet and find a life inside that most people never slow down long enough to see.
Have you ever noticed how some people walk into a room and instantly lose everyone's respect, quietly, without even realizing why? It's not the loud mistakes that make people pull away. It's the small, subtle habits, the ones that signal more than they say. And once you understand them, you'll see how easily respect fades and how quickly it can return. It begins with something so common that most people don't even notice they do it. Cutting someone off mid-sentence, jumping in to finish their thought. On the surface, it feels harmless, just energy, enthusiasm. But underneath, it sends a quiet message. My words matter more than yours. Interrupting is a silent dominance cue, and the brain registers it as social disrespect. In studies on conversation flow, people rated interrupters as less trustworthy and more self-absorbed. The fix isn't to talk less, it's to listen longer. Wait half a breath, let them finish. That moment of restraint tells others something powerful. I value your voice. And in any social setting, listening is influence. But sometimes we don't interrupt, we just redirect. You share a story, and somehow it circles back to them. You talk about a rough day, and suddenly it becomes their tough week, their worst experience. Psychologists